What if I told you that hiding in the caves of Scotland lived a family so twisted and horrifying that their very existence challenges everything we know about human nature? This is the story of Alexander Sawney Bean, a tale so disturbing that many historians debate whether it could possibly be true. But the records exist, the location is real, and the evidence suggests something absolutely horrific happened in those coastal caves over 4 centuries ago. Picture this: the rugged coastline of Galloway, Scotland in the late 1400s. While most families were farming, trading, or practicing honest crafts, one man made a decision that would doom his entire bloodline. Alexander Bean, known as Sawney, rejected conventional society entirely. He wasn't content with regular work or normal life. Instead, he chose a path that would make him one of history's most notorious criminals. Sawney didn't embark on this journey alone. He found a partner equally twisted in her thinking, a woman whose name has been lost to history, but whose actions would echo through centuries. Together, they made a choice that seems impossible to comprehend. They decided to survive entirely through robbery and murder, but that was just the beginning of their horrific story. The couple discovered a cave system along the Galloway coast that would become their home for the next 25 years. This wasn't just any cave. It stretched nearly a mile deep into the coastal cliffs, with passages that twisted and turned like an underground maze. The entrance was perfectly hidden, only accessible during low tide, making it virtually impossible for anyone to stumble upon accidentally. High tide would completely flood the entrance, creating a natural barrier that kept their secret safe. But here's where the story becomes truly nightmarish. Sawney and his partner didn't just rob their victims. They developed a taste for human flesh. Yes, you heard that correctly. They became cannibals, feeding off the travelers they murdered along the coastal roads. But the horror doesn't end there. Over the years, they began having children, and these children grew up knowing no other way of life than murder and cannibalism. The Bean family multiplied in ways that defy normal understanding. Sawney and his partner had 8 sons and 6 daughters. But in their isolated cave system, with no contact with normal society, incest became commonplace. The children began having children with each other, creating a second generation of 18 grandsons and 14 granddaughters. By most accounts, the Bean clan eventually numbered around 48 individuals, all living in this hidden cave system, all participating in their horrific lifestyle. For over 2 decades, travelers began disappearing along the coastal roads of Galloway. Initially, people assumed these were normal highway robberies gone wrong. Bandits were common, and the remote coastal roads were dangerous. But something was different about these disappearances. Bodies were never found. Entire groups of travelers would vanish without a trace, leaving behind only abandoned horses and scattered belongings. The Bean family had developed a sophisticated system. They would attack travelers in coordinated groups, overwhelming their victims through sheer numbers. They'd steal everything valuable, then drag the bodies back to their cave. There, they would butcher the corpses like livestock, preserving the meat in the cave's cool, damp environment. They had essentially created a human slaughterhouse hidden beneath the Scottish coastline. Local authorities were baffled. The disappearances were too numerous and too complete to be explained by normal criminal activity. Suspicion began falling on innocent innkeepers and local residents. Several innocent people were actually executed based on circumstantial evidence, while the real perpetrators remained hidden in their underground lair. The Bean family's downfall came through pure chance. One evening, they attacked a married couple returning from a fair. The husband was a skilled fighter, and he managed to defend himself long enough for a group of other travelers to arrive. Faced with superior numbers, the Bean clan retreated, but they left behind something they never had before: a living witness. The surviving husband rode directly to Glasgow and reported what he had seen to local magistrates. But his description seemed impossible. He spoke of wild, savage people who moved like animals and seemed more beast than human. He described their apparent hunger for human flesh and their inhuman behavior. Most officials would have dismissed such claims as hysteria, but the pattern of disappearances gave his testimony credibility. King James VI of Scotland himself became involved in the investigation. He organised a massive search party of 400 men, including bloodhounds specially trained for tracking. The search party scoured the Galloway coastline systematically, checking every cave and crevice along the shore. When they finally discovered the Bean family's cave, the scene that greeted them was beyond anything they had imagined. The cave was filled with human remains in various stages of decomposition. Arms, legs, and torsos hung from the cave walls like meat in a butcher shop. The smell was reportedly so overwhelming that several searchers became violently ill. The entire Bean family was captured alive. Their trial was swift, and their execution even swifter. The men were killed by having their hands and feet severed, then left to bleed to death. The women and children were burned alive after being forced to watch the men die. By all accounts, none of them showed any remorse or understanding that their actions were wrong. The story of Sawney Bean challenges our understanding of human nature itself. How does a family become so completely separated from normal human society that cannibalism becomes routine? How do children grow up believing that murdering and eating other humans is normal behavior? These questions have fascinated historians and psychologists for centuries. Some modern historians question whether the Bean family actually existed, suggesting the story might be anti-Scottish propaganda created by English writers. But the historical records, the location, and the detailed accounts suggest something genuinely horrific happened in those caves. Whether every detail is accurate or not, the core story appears to be grounded in terrible reality. The Bean family's legacy serves as a reminder of how quickly human civilization can collapse when separated from normal society. Their story remains one of the most disturbing examples of how far humans can fall when they abandon all moral constraints and social connections. Thank you for watching and for joining me as we revisited one of history's darkest crimes. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss a journey into the shadows of the past. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the past is never really gone.